Madeline, president of ExodusFoundation.org, with a phenomenal lady here today that we want to introduce you to. Welcome back to the community and give you some idea on how you can help welcome her back. She's a mentee at ExodusFoundation.org, and I'm blessed to say she is also my mentee. This is Sarah Willis, who has lived a very full life and is here to contribute even more than before she went away. She was a mental health clinician for 18 years in the community of Charlotte. She formed her own company, Willis Adolescent and Adult Services. She performed diagnostic assessments, person-centered planning, individual, group, and family therapy, substance abuse education, for which she held a CSAC. In family therapy, she taught communication and relationship building, for which she held a CSAPC as a prevention consultant, as well as a CCS. Sarah was a clinical supervisor for other clinicians seeking to obtain or secure their credentials, and she currently has a master's in education, administration, and supervision, a bachelor's in human services and psychology, and an associate's in applied science and substance abuse counseling and case management. Didn't I tell you she's phenomenal? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome home, Sarah Willis.
Well, thank you for that introduction. That was wonderful, Dr. Madeline, and I do appreciate being welcomed back by an organization like the Exodus Foundation, and I am really enjoying being in the Red Sea Crossing program. It does give me a forum for which I am able to understand some of the obstacles I am facing during reentry.
Are we giving you enough support, Sarah?
Dr.
Putting you on the
Madeline,
spot.
you've been superb. In every way that I can imagine. You've offered me not a handout, but a hand up. You've also given me a supportive ear. You give me a forum. You given me contacts, and it's more than I was able to get from a lot of other organizations who have been more established in the community, which have basically only become administrative entities for now. You would think that a city as large as Charlotte, for as much as they criminalize a lot of the residents from this particular area, is basically deemed a hot spot as far as crime is concerned. One of the things that I know, I was incarcerated on March the 1st, 2010, and I was released on April the 8th, 2016. And I had to go to the federal halfway house. There's only one that accepts women here in Charlotte, for which I stayed there 6 months. So in totality, I was actually incarcerated for seven years, 3 months.
7 years. Were you, 7 years, Sarah, what happened? Tell our
What
viewers.
happened was, actually, I started my own company when Mecklenburg County became managed care, and I was at the time working for Mecklenburg County Services. I've worked out at Gatlin Juvenile Detention Center as well as Cascade for Women's Services. And what happened was when Mecklenburg County became managed care, it opened the door for a lot of the clinicians working for the county to go into privatization. We received a lot of training and a lot of support from Mecklenburg County, and for that I am grateful, because I got everything from intensive in-home training to community support to 24-hour crisis responding.
And you're looking for a job now.
I am looking for a job now, basically because when you have to check the box as you do here in North Carolina, if you check no, you'll get the job, but you're going to lose it because you got it based on a lie, when you have to admit that, yes, I have been convicted of a felony. My felony came about as a result of me being in a car accident. As I stated, I started my business in 2002. I got in a car wreck where I had to be cut from the jaws of life. I had to be cut from my car because I was hit by a road rager on September the 7th, 2007. My rehabilitative endurance was about 18 months, and I went from a wheelchair to a walker to a cane, and what I stood up to was an indictment, simply because when I became incapacitated, I outsourced a lot of my administrative duties to a certified public accountant, for which I will not name in this video. However, I understood why they billed incorrectly on me in my absentia in order to increase their 10% recovery. But I couldn't understand why a judge who knew I spent more than 14 years training to get into my profession, I'm the 100%. Why exactly did I need to steal from myself and I'm sitting here with 1,100 pages in medical records? This reentry process for a professional with as much credentials and background and education that I have, it's deplorable.
And you came out, you told me earlier, with a restitution of $1.2 million.
This is correct.
And there's limited housing for women. Are you in a safe housing now?
Actually, Dr. Madeline, I will not. And I can honestly disclose the fact that currently, although I suit up and I dress every day, I'm basically still living out of bags like I did in prison. I sleep on a pallet on the floor. The family that I left more than 7 years ago is not the family that I returned to. Not to mention, during my absence, my mother passed away.
So the whole family is affected by our overly harsh and punitive treatment of people who are caught in the web of criminal justice. And,
That's right.
And we always want to say that we understand that there are valiant people trying to do justice within the criminal justice system, but it is severely broken, cancerous, and you don't compromise with cancer, you cure it. Because you and others like you are suffering unnecessarily and unjustly because of it.
I used to get mad, Dr. Madeline, when I used to see people come in and out those doors, and I didn't get an opportunity to go home one time. I had 6 letters. I didn't have a bond amount. Mine was NOBOND, no bond, based on the fact they felt like I had money hidden, and so therefore they deemed me a flight risk. So once they incarcerated me, they never let me go. And I've seen people come 3 and 4 times on my one sentence, and I used to get so mad. I say, you know, y'all keep coming back, and I haven't had an opportunity to go home one time.
How do you look at that today, though? You said earlier to me that you kind of understand now why people were coming back.
A person with a lesser understanding, capability, or education cannot fathom the ordeal that you face when you leave a lengthy prison sentence and think that you can return back to your life in an unwelcoming community that has now deemed you a criminal.
An invisible cage.
I promise you, it's more than an invisible cage. It creates a cage inside your own mind, and if you're not, and if you don't have the determination and the perseverance that I have, simply because I've had wonderful people in my life, in my past, some of the best people. One of the people you hear me talk about all the time, my grandmother Sadie. She says, if you think you can't, you won't. If you think you can, you will. And when you believe it, you will achieve it. I know that at some point, hard work will be fruitful. And so therefore, I will not give up. I know there's someone out there who has a property or some housing that you can have, because see, every application that I try to apply for an apartment for asks you, do you have any convictions? It's one more barrier. So I understand why people recidivate, because that's going to give them housing. That's a return to a behavior, because you have so many no's that you face when you come back to the community where you was basically criminalized more harshly than you should have for offenses that it doesn't take much to become a federal inmate.
We know punishment doesn't work. Criminal psychologists tell us that it's a revolving debt, that even though you've paid your debt to society, you come out and you look at more debt in terms of discrimination. And then the restitution is atrocious. So we want our viewers to know that if you have housing, a room in a house that's safe, employment, we support you in supporting Miss Willis. And so you are not on your own in this. You have the organization to support you as you support Miss Willis. So
That's correct.
please.
In a society that chooses to criminalize us, I refuse to live inside of the stereotypical effect of being incarcerated. They keep you physically strong and psychologically weak.
And so,
Not today.
welcome Miss Willis back. Call us, tell us what service, what housing and employment opportunities you have available. I would hire her in a New York minute. So you all need to, well, not need to, but please go ahead and donate so we can hire people like Miss Willis to work with us. And in the meantime, this is your next employee. She is going to take your organization to the next level because she comes with over 20 years of experience and she is capable and ready. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome her back and then set a trend for welcoming all of the men and women that come back to Charlotte the way they should be.
According to Dr. Martin Luther King, the worst thing a good person can do is nothing.